First of all, we're thankful for the miracle of modern technology. I've got, if you don't mind, break protocol for a moment. 2 messages I received via phone electronically from 2 very significant individuals, 2 messages to the family. I will share these messages. They are brief and they will not count against my time. To the Shearin family, my sincere apologies for not being in attendance. Words cannot express the regard and respect for the life and ministry I have for Reverend Shearin. He was a giant of the black church, a soldier in civil rights, and a dear and important friend. I know he is going to get his reward. Job well done. Sincerely, the Reverend Al Sharpton, National Action Network. Additionally, Reverend Dr. Morris Shearin made the best of his time. He preached every day. He went to jail to visit the imprisoned. He went to schools to visit the children. He encouraged those who stopped going to school. He changed public policy. He reached out to me while doing my work. He believed in and advocated for civil rights. He never stopped preaching and used his words when he had to. His actions were his sermon. His priorities were his sermon. His life was his eulogy. We thank God for making him available and using his talents to make our lives better. I miss him so much already. The Reverend Jesse L. Jackson, Sr., President of the Rainbow Push Coalition. Now, reclaiming my time. Ms. Shearin, Morris, Felicia, sisters and brothers, grandchildren, I am truly honored to be here with you today. Every moment that he spent with me and all of us was a moment he wasn't spending with you. And we all have to thank y'all for sharing him with us. Our morning phone calls always began with a familiar greeting that every preacher here on those morning calls with him respectively all heard. Hey man, we would talk about the news of the day. Hey man, John McCain's not going to win, is he? Hey man, Mitt Romney's not going to win, is he? Hey man, Donald Trump's not going to win, is he, Mark? And after he co-hosted the nomination of Barack Obama on the air with me from Denver, we were 2 out of 3. Some mornings those calls would conference in Dick Gregory. And Dick would have both Reverend Shearin and me spellbound. How I miss them both, losing them so close together. Dick said to me once, "Champ, your man, Shearin. God, what a beautiful brother. Whom can we name, sisters and brothers, who better embodies Micah's admonition to Israel? What does the Lord require of you to act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. Who was more humble than Reverend Shearin? He lifted all of us here, Reverend clergy, above himself. Never saw him angry. Never heard him say a bad word about anyone. He indeed loved mercy. He forgave even those who committed trespasses against him. So humble was he, those who opposed him, and who were at times even envious of his success, often made more noise about his accomplishments than he made himself being successful at those accomplishments. What's Shearin over there doing? Would be the question. While others were talking about what he was doing, he was just doing it. One of the people he lifted was me. And there were those who told him not to. I was controversial for a couple of reasons. Foremost, I'm not from North Carolina. I apologize for that. I'm sorry. But also because some folk thought I was too radical. You don't need to bring Mark over there. Don't do that. I was too radical. But I wasn't the one who stared down the KKK in North Carolina. He was. But I was too radical. I wasn't the one who defied protocol at the time and started ordaining women in the ministry. He was. But I was too radical. I wasn't the one who opened the church's door to coalitioning with the LGBT community against discrimination when other churches wouldn't open that door. He was. But I was too radical. I wasn't the one who stood in this pulpit during the Iraq War, long before players started taking a knee during the national anthem. I wasn't the one who stood in the pulpit and said in these words, everyone singing God Bless America at these sporting events, when it's really America that needs to bless God. He said that, but I was too radical. And I certainly didn't decide to establish an NAACP task force to combat police violence here in the city in the 90s, long before we ever heard the phrase Black Lives Matter. He was the one that delegated me to do that, but I was too radical. And I wasn't the one who built a health facility to provide much needed care to this community unlike no other. He was. But I was too radical. When Reverend Shearin delivered the opening prayer at the 40th anniversary of the March on Washington in 2003, he told me in advance that he would pray the 90th Psalm filled. The prayer of Moses, the prayer was sacred to him, and his words prophetic for those of us gathered around today.
1,000 years in thy sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night.
Yet
you sweep men away
in the sleep of death.
In the sleep of death. They are like the new grass of the morning. And may the favor of the Lord our God rest upon us, establish us, and the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. And the people of God may say, amen.
It's our duty, Israel, in his memory, to allow God to establish the work of our hands, and to act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with God as he did. Lastly, we all know he could certainly sing. The great William Augustus Jones Barber stood in this very pulpit and said that singing for a preacher is like a spare tire. When the sermon goes flat, you can always pull out that spare. The great William Augustus Jones also said at that moment, he said that when he died, he planned to ask the good Lord why he didn't give him a spare tire like Morris Shearin. I was honored a few weeks ago to have been asked to preach in Bill Jones's pulpit in Bethany Baptist in Brooklyn. Just before going out to preach, Reverend Shearin's cousin came into the pastor's study and called him on the phone, put him on the speaker, and asked him to sing. Reverend Shearin sang, "God has smiled on me. He has set me free." Even then, Reverend Morris Shearin was already free, y'all. His physical death was just a formality because his spirit was already free. Doctor, I'm going to miss you. We love you. We thank you for all you've done for us. Find Dick. Find my mother. Y'all get together and please plead my case. It won't be an easy one to plead. But I pray if you do, you'll win. So I can hear you once again say, amen.